Coming up on our newscast tonight. President Moon Jae-in and his cabinet ratified the Pyeongyang Joint Declaration and the military agreement between the two Koreas. Rival parties clashed over the decision, with the conservative opposition claiming the administration is disregarding the parliament. The 17th World Korean Business Convention kicks off. President Moon attends the opening ceremony and encourages overseas Korean entrepreneurs to support small and mid-sized local firms and help young people become business leaders of the next generation. He also calls for their support in efforts to achieve a peaceful and prosperous Korean peninsula. Last month, South Korea's producer price index reached its highest levels in half a decade. The upward trend is driven partly by agricultural goods prices affected by this summer's record heat wave. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. President Moon Jae-in and his cabinet ratified the Pyeongyang Joint Declaration. It's expected to help efforts to denuclearize the North and lay the groundworks for inter-Korean economic cooperation as well. However, rival political parties were not exactly in sync with the move. Shin Se-min has our top story.
The Moon Jae-in administration has ratified the Pyeongyang Joint Declaration and the military agreement, which were both reached by the two Koreas at the third Moon-Kim summit last month.
남북 관계의 발전과 군사적 긴장 완화는 한반도의 완전한 비핵화를 더 쉽게 만들어 촉진하는 역할을 하게 될 것입니다. 또한 우리 국민들의 생명과 안전을 보호하는 길일 뿐만 아니라 한반도 위기 요인을 없애 우리 경제에도 도움이 될 것입니다.
He said the agreement reached by the leaders of the two Koreas will help speed up the North's denuclearization while laying the foundations for economic opportunities for the South. President Moon added that the ratification of the inter-Korean agreement will first and foremost benefit residents living near the border area, as they had long been disadvantaged. And he called on related ministries to do their part in carrying out the ratified declaration. President Moon said inducing the regime to change and become a normal state through dialogue and cooperation could, in a way, improve the human rights conditions in the North, rather than simply pressuring the regime. The ratification comes as the Ministry of Government Legislation had said that the Pyeongyang Joint Declaration does not need parliamentary approval for ratification, as the overreaching agreement, the Panmunjom Declaration reached at April summit, is already being reviewed by Parliament after the government submitted it last month. Rival political parties at the National Assembly clashed over the cabinet's approval of the summit agreement, with the ruling Democratic Party saying that the parliament should ratify the Panmunjom Declaration signed in April, while the conservative opposition bloc claimed that the administration is disregarding parliament. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
From November 1st, Pyongyang will halt all forms of live-fire artillery drills and close gun ports along the northern limit line, the de facto sea border between the two Koreas. The measures come as the two sides agreed to establish maritime buffer zones in accordance with the military deal the two sides signed last month during South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's summit in Pyongyang. Currently, along its western coast, the regime has around 1,000 gun ports and numerous artilleries with a maximum range of 27 kilometers. U.S. President Donald Trump said his next meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will likely take place after the November 6th midterm elections. But there are growing speculations that it could be held at a much later date, possibly next year. Lee Ji-won sheds light on what could be the possible reason for this delay.
White House National Security Advisor John Bolton has hinted that the second North Korea-U.S. summit will likely take place next year. In an interview with Russian radio station Echo Moskvy on Monday, Bolton said that U.S. President Donald Trump has taken the unprecedented step of meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and that they will probably meet again after the first of the year. This is the first time a White House official has hinted at such a possibility, and it is in line with a Reuters report last week that quoted a senior U.S. official and said the same about the meeting, adding that the details are likely to be sorted out very soon. After U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's fourth visit to Pyongyang earlier in the month, Pompeo told the traveling press that the North and the U.S. got pretty close to finalizing the terms of the summit. But Pompeo said that that last inch is hard to close, and it seems like the gap still hasn't been narrowed. Weeks ago, a Japanese newspaper quoted sources to report that Kim Jong-un refused to first declare the regime's nuclear assets, while the U.S. said the North needs to do more than dismantle the Yongbyon nuclear facility. But some experts say the delay comes as the U.S. is taking its time deciding what to offer the North for dismantling its nuclear site.
North Korea offered to dismantle the Yongbyon site, and the corresponding measure would be something like lifting the sanctions. But that's not something the U.S. can do now, and so it does not have a powerful enough card to give to the North, and they're currently weighing their cards.
Some look at the situation from a strategic point of view.
The U.S. stance is that it does not beg for talks with the North. So by taking time to meet and reach a deal, Washington could be urging the North to take more concrete steps for denuclearization if it wants sanctions to be alleviated. This adds pressure on the North and could work as a push.
While there are concerns on why the planned working-level talk is not being carried out, Professor Yang said it's not a problem, as Pyongyang and Washington are continuing their talks and even discussing possible meetings between Pompeo and his counterpart, which Pompeo last Friday said will hopefully be held in the next week and a half or so. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in appointed 3 new justices to the Constitutional Court. Kim Ki-young, Lee Jong-seok, and Ryu Hyun-jin were sworn in at the nation's top office. This comes a week after Parliament approved their appointments in a vote and a month after their confirmation hearings. The trio are filling seats that had been vacant since their predecessors stepped down last month. The annual World Korean Business Convention was established in 2002 to help Korean businessmen at home and abroad broaden their business connections and share their know-how. This year's event opened today at Songdo Conventia in Incheon, where President Moon Jae-in delivered a congratulatory address. Kim Hye-sung takes us there.
The 17th World Korean Business Convention kicked off Tuesday in Incheon. More than 1,300 local and overseas Korean entrepreneurs gathered together to strengthen economic exchanges.
인천시의 목표는 대한민국의 길을 열어 세계로 잇는 것입니다. 대한민국의 경제 지도를 세계로 넓혀가는 한상대회의 목표와 아주 잘 어울립니다. 갈수록 발전하는 세계 한상대회를 통해 동포 경제인들의 활약이 세계 속에서 더욱 빛나기를 기대합니다.
President Moon thanked overseas Korean entrepreneurs for their hard work and success and emphasized the need to strengthen the so-called Korea Business Network, in which local and overseas Koreans boost their ties and create more business opportunities amid growing global trade protectionism and technological changes. He said the government has been working on encouraging investment in new industries and expanding ties with countries in Asia and Europe, and also encouraged overseas Korean businessmen to help small and mid-sized Korean firms and young people move overseas and become the business leaders of the next generation. At the same time, President Moon called for overseas Korean support in achieving a peaceful, prosperous Korean peninsula. Over 4,000 participants, including overseas Korean businessmen from around 60 countries, are expected to attend this year's convention to network and explore business opportunities. The event will feature a variety of programs such as exhibitions and one-on-one business meetings and will run through Thursday. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
In line with fast-paced industrial and societal changes, the South Korean government is looking to reinforce collaboration among industries, academia, and research institutions. The first meeting of a commission dedicated to improving coordination between the three sectors was held today. Cha Sang-mi has the highlights from that session.
During the first meeting of the Industry Academia Research Collaboration Commission on Tuesday, Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun stressed the importance of cooperation for success in the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
The Industry Academia Research Collaboration is linking talented individuals with industry. I once met an expert who said collaboration is the backbone of South Korea's economy. I think the three-way collaboration will decide the success or defeat of our economy.
The Prime Minister cited the World Economic Forum's Competitiveness Index report released last week, in which South Korea's overall ranking rose 2 notches to 15th out of 140 countries.
There is a contrast to this report, though. Our infrastructure and ICT adoption is assessed as #1 in the world, but university-industry collaboration and R&D is ranked at 27th, and creative critical thinking education stood at 90th.
Citing the index as the main marker of where South Korea's economy stands now, the PM said the three sectors should complement each other to make a synergy effect. The Commission presented its 5-year plan that focuses on 4 key visions: training and education of people through industry education, technology transfer and industrialization, establishing a strong support system for startups, and setting up the infrastructure needed for three-way collaboration. The Prime Minister expressed hopes for the Commission's efforts to contribute to the government's aim of creating $405 billion worth of economic effects by 2030. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
The National Assembly's audit of government agencies continues. The minimum wage hike and possible changes to the national pension system were the issues up for debate today. Kim Min-ji has the latest from Parliament.
Opposition parties ramped up their offensive against the government's minimum wage hike during the inspection Tuesday of several state-run bodies that help support small businesses. They said the Moon Jae-in administration's policies have forced small businesses to shed workers or even shut down. And with job growth weak, they claim the government is forcing the public sector to pump out jobs.
The government's job creation policies have failed, and now the government is pushing public corporations to provide short-term jobs. Even though they don't have the money, they're creating useless positions that don't even have any work to do. This is no way to cover up the jobs numbers.
The ruling party defended the policies and called on the state-run bodies to carry out the government's agenda of support for small business owners and the self-employed.
The debt of the self-employed has reached about 600 trillion won, which is very serious. And the Moon Jae-in government is doing a very good job helping them to start anew by dealing with non-performing loans.
Also facing harsh criticism was the National Pension Service, whose enormous fund the opposition claimed might be at risk of running out. They also criticized a potential reform that some worry could mean people pay into the fund for a longer period of time and get smaller pension checks later. However, the ruling party said the opposition should not stoke fear and called for any changes to come by public consent. Another sprawling issue at Parliament is a hiring scandal involving the operator of the Seoul subway. It was found that the state-run Seoul Metro transferred nearly 1,300 contract workers to permanent status as of March, 108 of whom were relatives of current or former employees. Opposition parties are calling for a wide-reaching parliamentary probe.
Making irregular workers permanent looks nice from the outside, but filling even these kinds of positions as personal favors, is that what the government is trying to do?
However, the ruling party insists that they have to first determine whether the allegations are true.
First, we need to go through the process of getting our facts straight. A lot of the allegations are groundless or have been exaggerated.
The ruling party says they will see if there is a need for a probe once the parliamentary audit is over. In the meantime, tensions on that front are expected to escalate. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The government vowed to turn the external risks to the Korean economy into opportunities by diversifying the country's trade and investment. At a meeting on Tuesday, Finance Chief Kim Dong-yeon said that the government will deal proactively with rising trade protectionism and seek new trade blocs such as the G20, the Pacific Alliance, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. As the main risks, he cited the U.S. government's closer monitoring of China for currency manipulation and its possible new tariffs of 20% on Korean vehicles. Still, the minister added, Korea's financial market is steady, recording this year a net foreign capital inflow of more than $7 billion. South Korea's producer price index for September hit its highest level in over 5 years. One key contributing factor is the extreme summer heat, which affected the price of agricultural goods. Go Ryun-hee explains further.
Data released by Korea's central bank hints that consumer prices will rise in the coming months. The Bank of Korea revealed Tuesday that last month's producer price index, a key barometer of future inflation, hit its highest level since August 2013. September's index hit 105.78, which is 0.3% higher than the previous month. This is a 2.7% increase from the same period last year and extends the on-year streak of gains to a 23rd straight month. In particular, producer prices of agricultural goods rose 1.6% compared to the previous month, mainly because of the record heat wave this summer. In August, temperatures in Seoul sizzled at a 111-year high, and the intensity of the heat wave led to supply shortages. Prices of tomatoes soared by a whopping 96.7%, and bell peppers jumped by 92.6% over the same period. The overall producer price index for agricultural, forestry, and marine products marked its highest point since related figures were first compiled in 2000. Meanwhile, prices of manufacturing products rose by 0.3% on month due to rising international oil prices. Coal and petroleum products prices increased by 3.4%. The Bank of Korea added the prices of utilities, electricity, gas, and water also spiked 1.5% because the government's revision to the progressive electricity billing rates only came into effect in August. Go Ryun-hee, Arirang News.
Asian shares slumped today. There's been a cocktail of negative drivers, from Saudi Arabia's diplomatic isolation to fresh worries of a slowdown of the Chinese economy and intensifying trade wars. Kim Ji-yeon helped us look beyond the digits.
Korea's benchmark Kospi fell 2.6% from the previous trading day, closing near the psychologically significant 2,100 level on Tuesday. During midday trading, it dipped below this level for the first time since March last year. Foreign investors sold $344.3 million worth of shares from the Kospi, while institutions sold $259 million of shares. Shares related to medical supplies, machinery, and retail sectors fell the most. In particular, the share price of Korea's biopharma company Celltrion fell by more than 8%, mainly due to the impact of a multi-million-dollar block deal by Singapore's sovereign wealth fund Temasek Holdings. Korea's secondary board's KOSDAQ also dropped by 3.4%, closing at the 719 level. Largely due to worries of a slowdown of the Chinese economy, which released lower than expected Q3 growth rate of 6.5% last week, the Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong declined by more than 3%, and the Shanghai Stock Exchange fell by 2.3%. Japan's Nikkei Index dipped by nearly 2.7%, while the Topix fell 2.6%. The MSCI Broadest Index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan also skidded by more than 2%. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is stepping up coordination with the UN Refugee Agency. Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa met with Filippo Grandi, the High Commissioner for Refugees, to discuss ways to promote cooperation. The top diplomat highly praised the agency's role in protecting refugees, especially through the Global Compact on Refugees, comprehensive framework that will be endorsed by the UN General Assembly by the end of this year. She also noted that South Korea has been increasing humanitarian aid for refugees and wants to keep working with the agency on the global refugee crisis, which includes the hundreds of Yemeni refugees who recently arrived on Jeju Island. The High Commissioner described South Korea as a newly rising donor country that has quickly expanded its aid for refugees. Back in August, BMW Korea recalled more than 100,000 vehicles because of a faulty engine part. Now the automaker is recalling around 66,000 more because of the same problem. Choi Si-young gets us up to speed with the developments.
BMW Group Korea will voluntarily recall nearly 66,000 BMWs and Minis to repair faulty parts, according to the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport on Tuesday. The recall will begin on November 26 and involve 52 models, including Mini Cooper D models and 118D compact cars. The Transport Ministry said the German carmaker had submitted a recall plan to the ministry on Monday. The recall was prompted by the BMW probe led by Transport Ministry officials and civilian experts that last month found the 118D models have defective engine parts known as EGR or exhaust gas recirculation, but were not part of the previous recall back in August. About 30,000 vehicles subject to the recall were equipped with the faulty engine parts but were not recalled back in August due to a low risk of fire. The German carmaker still maintains that the vehicles subject to the new recall have low fire risk and that the recall is only precautionary. This year, more than 40 BMW vehicles have burst into flames, and of those cars, more than 10 vehicles were not on the recall list. 최시영, Arirang News.
The fast dissemination of fake news is taking the world by storm, affecting people's views on virtually any topic from politics, social issues to science. For the second of our three-part series, Oh Soo-young shows us how governments around the world are attempting to tackle the wave of disinformation and what kind of lessons to take home to apply here in Korea.
While South Korea already enforces laws against defamation and false information during electoral periods, the government is seeking ways to target fake news in particular. Looking to examples, the Liberals have endorsed Germany's network enforcement law, which gives internet firms 24 hours to delete hate speech. But others argue the law does not apply to the Korean context.
It's just about hate speech. I would say it's something totally different, so it's not a proper answer to fake news at all. The good side is that the platforms are forced to react. If they don't react, they have to pay a big fee. But the bad parts are that the platform is now in the role to decide if something is hate speech or not.
Germany has this historical background, Holocaust denial, those kind of things, which is why they are really taking pretty serious measure against it. I don't know whether that kind of measure is going to be effective, and there's always this danger that that is going to have a really chilling effect on the media and also on ordinary people's freedom of expression.
Such concerns surfaced in Malaysia this year when it banned citizens from spreading fake news, lest they face up to 6 years in prison and a fine of $123,000. Legislators tabled a bill to revoke the law in August. Rather than a repressive system, some suggest a more fluid, positive approach, such as promoting greater transparency.
In the UK, for instance, there would be a duty of the platform itself to disclose who is the source, who is actually paying for sponsor content, for how long, and who is the target audience. The EU has identified this disclosure requirement as one of the possible way forward, but at the same time, this is a code of conduct, so nothing is really mandatory.
It's clear that cooperation from online platforms is crucial.
Looking at how certain information are provided, are crafted, are discussed, and therefore to adopt the most innovative forms, apps of fact-checkers and external actors that might facilitate their task.
Experts say governments and digital actors must work together to work out the right balance of basic rules and self-regulatory measures that protect society from detrimental content. They say online platforms must also move away from their current business models that profit from content that generate the most clicks, instead investing in systems that will offer higher quality content and information for their users. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Moving on to the world of sports, Ryu Hyun-jin will become the first South Korean in Major League Baseball to start a World Series game this week. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts selected Clayton Kershaw for the opener on Tuesday night, followed by the Korean monster lefty in Game 2. South Korean pitchers have made World Series appearances before, Kim Byung-hyun back in 2001 and Park Chan-ho in 2009, but Ryu is the first to start. The 2018 World Series pits LA against Boston for the first time in over a century. Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, we had a brief autumn shower today. Have conditions changed a lot after the precipitation?
Oh yes, a lot for that matter. Now thick rain clouds are no longer hovering over the peninsula. And what's more, high concentration of fine dust have finally cleared, giving way to cool and clean autumn air for us to enjoy, at least for the time being. Now, these clear conditions will continue into Wednesday afternoon, and at the same time, our neighbor China will be warmer and sunnier over there, while Japan continues to be under rainy skies. Now, turning to our readings for tomorrow, Seoul will start off at 8 degrees Celsius. Busan and Jeju still in the teens, while Chuncheon dips low to 5 degrees in the morning. Now, there will be a big and sudden jump into the day, with Seoul topping out to 19 degrees, while the rest of the nation will stay in the comfortable lower 20s. Now, the mild autumn weather will continue through Thursday. Then, another nationwide rain will loom on the horizon by Friday. But this time, the precipitation will be followed by the drastic temperature changes, further bringing the mercury down. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you on tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. As always, thanks for staying with us.